time has finally come, everybody. This is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming here, and welcome to God of War Ragnarok. Now, usually I'll have a review out after I stream the games, but I've already beaten it twice in my downtime, and I'm still going to stream it, but, due to holidays, Thanksgiving, I'm kind of preoccupied, so doing videos is probably the only thing I can pull off, at least until I can continue streaming. I have a Yu-Gi-Oh video already ready, but now I need to talk about God of War Ragnarok. Now, I need to tell everybody right now, look, I've been a God of War fan since playing my first God of War experience, which was God of War 2. God of War 2 is what got me into the franchise, and since then I have been in love with it. It entrenches you in an action-packed version of different mythologies. The original series was about the Greek mythology. From the 2018 game up to now Ragnarok, which is a two-parter game, not a trilogy, but a two-parter, leading us into the Norse mythology, introducing us to it, but not overstaying its welcome. I think 2 parts was well enough. A third one might feel like it overstayed, like with the Greek games. You had the PSP, you had the PSP spin-offs, the prequel, the main lines, all that. It kind of did overplay the whole Greek thing quite a bit. But here, it knows what it is. God of War has fully entrenched itself into growing up from the original series. Where the original series was hack and slash, beat 'em up, high-octane action, this series cranks you back to more of a character-driven tale. And I think that is something God of War always needed. Because if they would have just continued the original style, I think it would have gotten old and it would have gotten bland very, very quickly. 6 games in the Greek setting with the same controls and the same combat was enough. But here, whatever they introduced in the 2018 game is fully realized here. The mechanics they introduced, along with new mechanics in this game, really helped flesh out this series of this I gotta stop saying series, but God of War is part of a series. Even this one is part of the series. If we want to really look at it, this would be the 8th game in the franchise, with 2018 being number 7. Chronologically in the story, this is the 4th story, like after God of War 3. But, you got to take all the other games into account in chronological order. So, Ragnarok, I didn't know how much I was going to like it. I was taken aback when I first started, because I had already beat it on my PS4 Pro. Then I was blessed to get my PS5 early for my early gift, and now I can play Ragnarok the way I was wanting to always play it, my first PS5 game. And I am just stunned. I'm absolutely blown how much this game is so much different than the 2018 game. Very similar, yes, in aesthetic, obviously. But to those people who are saying this game is DLC, are just flat out wrong and just love to spread misinformation to get a rise out of fans of the series. But I'm not speaking for other gamers. I'm speaking for the fans of this series and people who are either now getting into God of War or who have discovered a newfound love for the series. Now, this game takes place 3 years after the last one. We are being led into the events of Ragnarok, which, as in Norse mythology, 3 years of Fimbulwinter, at the end of the last game where we killed Baldur. Every character in this game has a moment to shine. From Kratos, obviously the star of the series, Kratos shines, Atreus shines, to the new characters like Tyr, Odin, Thor, and Gaboda. And what I mean by shine is not in combat. It's either in character or how they are brought in. Like Tyr, the battled-down, almost gone mad, tortured son of Odin that we free, to the always funny Mimir on your hip, to Kratos, opening himself up. And that is the most endearing part of this game, is that everything Kratos has ever done, everything he's tried to run from, and every person that knew Kratos the way we all knew him from the bloodlusted ghost of Sparta, which is constantly thrown in his face in this game, to finally showing that he is more than a god slayer. He is more than a destroyer. Okay? He's not Thor, which Kratos, in a way, is the Thor of the Greek universe. Let's not be wrong. There's very similarities between the two. But everything here, everything we thought we knew in the first game, any theories we might have made of how Ragnarok comes to fruition. Now, I used to come up with theories on how this could be. I would live stream the 2018 game, came up with some theories of how Ragnarok was going to commence. And a lot of my ideas were not only shifted, I would say. The ideas that I thought of were here, but not in the way I thought they would be. They still surprised me. It still caught me off guard. The introduction of characters from the Norse mythos, Skoll, Hati, Jormungandr, Angrboda, the giants. Even though, let's be real, there's only 2 giants now in existence, Angrboda and Loki. But if you do want to count Jormungandr, Fenrir, Skoll, and Hati as giants, we can too, because they are quite giant beasts. And Odin, one of the most deceptively fragile, yet deadliest gods that we have ever came across. The deadliest god. I mean, he puts Zeus's deception to shame, because we all know Zeus has some dirty tricks up his sleeve back in the old series. I mean, he puts the plot that Ares had with the Furies to turn Kratos into the ghost of Sparta. I mean, he puts that to shame. And Thor, one of the characters that we thought we were going to hate and wanted to kill, is in fact one of the most endearing characters, with a role that takes the god of thunder and humanizes him. He's not what we always thought he was going to be, even though he starts off that way with an insane boss battle at the beginning of the first game. Very similar to the first game with Baldur. Here, Thor basically comes to fight you. And I didn't expect Odin himself to come. Now, yes, before I continue any further, I'm sorry to say that there will be certain spoilers, but I'm not going to spoil everything, because even if I do say something, seeing it and experiencing it from yourself will still give you that feeling of satisfaction. The way the game feels, it's a 3-act structure. Even though at certain points you could tell this should have been a trilogy, but this is one massive game. It at least took me, I would like to say, my first run, not knowing what I'm doing, only with basic, my basic gaming habits of just looking around, doing certain side missions to power myself up. It took me 25 hours just to beat it on Give Me Balance. Now, I'm planning to do it again. I mean, I've done it twice already, so yeah. So there's a whole bunch of side missions that would also extend your time. And I'd recommend going through and searching the different realms. You will at least visit the 9 realms. Some you can go back to at the end of the game, just like the 2018 game, where you can go search around and do everything in a free open world type setting, or free realm setting, I should say, to finding the things you need to help power you up for the battles to come. Because I just want to say now, between the moments of levity, the action in this game has been cranked up. Every realm has its own enemy type, where that was a criticism of the first game that even I will admit right here. The first game lacked variety, lacked enemy variety, where here, every realm has a different enemy type, a different way you have to defeat them. Hell, there's different aspects where you need to swap between the Blades of Chaos and your Leviathan axe. Plus, a different weapon, which to those who played the game, you know you get a third weapon in this game. And no, I don't want to break everyone's hearts, but I'm going to have to. You do not use Mjolnir, which would have been great, but by the way it is used in this game, the mechanics behind it would have been difficult. And I could see why. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. But the third weapon they give you, I'm just going to say it's a nice callback to one of the older God of War games. And when I got it, let's just say I went on a killing spree throughout the remainder of the game. Leveling up is a must. You can't just burn through everything like you think you could. You probably can on Give Me Story, which is the Quantum TV difficulty setting, or Give Me Grace, but Give You Balance actually fits the title of the difficulty. The enemies are balanced to you. So that means it is either you adapt and defeat the enemy that has that skill requirement, or you get conquered. And I like that. I like the unpredictability of combat. I like not knowing what enemy I'm going to come across, how I need to change my tactics, what skills should I use. But this is a mechanic that is not only among Kratos, but the sections of the game that I didn't expect to enjoy was Atreus. Yes, Atreus goes on his own journey. This is basically his game. The first game was more so about Kratos, but this game is more so about his son and the prophecies of how can you defy fate, or how can you change your fate, or prevent a fate that you do not want to occur and have the outcome you desire. And that goes back to the 3-act structure. The beginning, which introduces you to this right after 3 years, it throws you right back into knowing how this world sets up. The first act. The second act is a battle. How do I say this? Not a battle. It's a gathering of the troops type of scenario, along with the journey of self-discovery for Atreus. And then the third act, we all know, is the big, massive conflict that is Ragnarok. But everything that leads to Ragnarok is mind-boggling. I mean, to the side missions that even play a role in Ragnarok. And what I mean by this, you go around different realms. And I want to say my favorite realm is still the realm of the light and the dark elves. That is the most beautiful realm in this game. If I was to categorize this, Jotunheim would be number 3, because Jotunheim with the Loki sections and Angerboda, it's a beautiful section. And the relationship that grows between Angerboda and Atreus is beautiful. Even though it's not ultra long, it's put where it should be. Because there's a lot of characters that I feel should have gotten more time, and maybe the game should have been longer, but then it would have hit the risk of overstaying and becoming redundant. And you know what? I'm fine with how it turns out. From Thor's daughter Thrud to Sif, the wife of Thor, going to Asgard was something I didn't expect to look the way it did. Asgard was not the way I imagined it, but it was, again, fitting to the theme of Odin, which is appearances can be deceiving, And that is crazy. To the boss battles. Now, let me tell you about the boss battles. I think my favorite one in the game is, well, at least one of my favorites, is the boss battle that Atreus has against a insane giant. One of the giants that is still around, but kind of mad. So, it's like a kaiju battle. And I mean, a lot of Atreus' mechanics come out here. This is what I'm talking about. If you're going to introduce a character or be us to play as Atreus' mechanics come to full fruition. The guesses that we took of him turning into different animals. I love that aspect. It breaks up his controls from Kratos. And it makes me wish that, hell, make a spin-off game with Atreus. Let us warm up to him. Therefore, we can go to different worlds or mythologies as Kratos, and therefore we could still stick in the Norse world and have some sort of new forging of the world through the eyes of Atreus. But the current way the game is, it is fine the way it is. Especially when you go back to Kratos. You could tell the distinction between him and his son's combat, where his son is fast, quick, a lot of magic, breaks up he could take on almost the same hordes of enemies that Kratos takes on. It's incredible. To where when you do play as Kratos, you can feel the speed and power of the blades, to the heavy-hitting nature, to the Leviathan axe, to bringing back a fan favorite feature, dismemberment. This game really is the culmination of all the other God of War games. And hell, I wouldn't mind if the God of War games went back to the similar style of the original series mixed in with this newer series, but I'm quite fine with this newer series. I don't mind being behind the camera. It makes you feel up close. It makes you feel personal. It makes you feel that every enemy you take down, you could feel it. You feel the weight. And I want to talk about something that this game allows you to do, which is something that's unique to me, and I didn't know this until I got my hand on this place on the PlayStation 5, is where every time you make an attack, it's something I believe called haptic feedback. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, or right, I don't know if that's the name. But it's like when I'm using the Leviathan axe or the Blades of Chaos, for example, and I'm trying to hit somebody or break something with the axe, you could feel the resistance, and you have to press even harder to make it go through. That makes the fights and the world itself feel interactive. And between this and Elden Ring, I wouldn't know what my game of the year would be. I'm going to cheat and say both. But this game truly was worth the 4-year wait. Now, you have people that criticize the pace of the game, that it's too slow. It's not the action-packed of the original. Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, Cupcakes, but, everything has to change and nothing can be stagnant forever. I mean, would it be nice? Yes. Would it make sense to today? No, it would not. Because the problem is we have snobby gamers and snobby critics that don't understand the value of the original game. And I would not want this series compromised just to make a group of people's whose opinions don't matter, try to make them happy. This game is for God of War fans. It's for fans who have stuck with the series, that you got something new, but with the great callbacks to the original series, because there's a lot of callbacks in the dialogue, in the interactions with characters, that people that understood what Kratos has done. It almost feels like that this story was not only, yes, Atreus' story, but Kratos' redemption. And if that's one thing I think that separates it from all the games in the series, is that we've never seen Kratos viewed in a positive light. And I think it's time that he was viewed as such. This is a man that we all played with, his game. We all played his series. We saw his struggles. We saw the rage. We saw the suffering. We saw what we did to the Greek world. Is it justified through violence? Possibly. But, again, this game has the most character. It's the most story-driven. And I don't mind going through it 2 or 3 times. And it's not because I'm a God of War fan. Hell, there are just other God of War games I can't go back and play. Like, I'll just go back, play them once. Like, God of War 2 and 3, I could go back and play consistently. 1, I could probably play once or twice. The spin-offs, you only need to play once. And Ascension, I really played for the multiplayer after I beat the campaign. But this one, like the 2018 one, it invigorated me to keep going. It invigorated me to push through. And even though the parts that are slow, you're rewarded with character. You're rewarded with extra bits of story. And it's worth going out to go into the free roaming section when the game is done and exploring everything. Now, it is your choice to do it during the main campaign. You'll have moments where you could just go through. There are parts in the game that let you, that are not, how's the word I'm looking for here? That don't require you to go and immediately do the mission. You could go around and search the different realms, find artifacts, find things you need to upgrade your gear and make you more powerful. Because like I said, the bosses in this game don't play. Even some of the side bosses from the side missions. And every side mission has its own story now. It's not just a task or a favor that you would do in the 2018 game. Here, like, I'm going to give you an example. When you go to the realm of the elves, Alfheim, there's a creature in the desert that you hear of when you first go there during a mission when you return to Alfheim. But then if you choose to stay and do this side quest, you're freeing a creature that has its own cinematic experience, that you're going to set something free. And you're rewarded for it. See, everything you do in this game, whether it be main or side, going off the beaten path, discovery. And that's like the tone of the first 2 games, where you feel the discovery that Kratos has to go through to discover who he is inside. The same with Atreus. You discover things throughout the different realms and go on this path, and you will be rewarded. And the combat, since it has been upgraded, feeling much more different fast, fluid. It very much does feel like the original series, just with this camera angle. And that's the one thing I think they took to heart, along with the lack of enemy variety from the 2018 game. They took everything we said in this game to heart. You could tell Santa Monica Studios really loves this, and this is one of the few games that's not being bogged down with messaging a la Last of Us Part 2. You know, I've seen stupid votes on Twitter saying this game is worse than Last of Us Part 2. I was like, yeah, get your head out of the sands, sweetheart, because you've never played a real game. If Last of Us Part 2 is considered a real game to most people, then their parents must have hated them and never got them a PS2 to play God of War. But what more can I say? I got this game. I was happy to play it. For a God of War fan as well, I'm going to speak as both a God of War fan and as somebody who wouldn't be a God of War fan. If you're a God of War fan, you're going to love this game. It's the culmination of everything we've ever done and everything we've led up to, especially for Kratos. This is the most human we've ever seen Kratos, and I know a lot of people miss angry Kratos, but make no mistake, the God we once knew in God of War 3, oh, he arrives. I'm not going to tell you when, but he pops up. Old Kratos does show his face, but there's a difference between old Kratos that just destroyed for the sake of destruction through vengeance, not caring who got in his way, to imagine if that Kratos from God of War 3 had control and directed all the vengeance, all the hatred, and all the anger, but instead of casualties being in the middle, to somebody who uses that rage to protect, to defend, and to bring justice. That is the feel of this game. We must set aside our vengeance and not act in vengeance, because everything Kratos had did through the name of vengeance destroyed more than it did. It even destroyed things he tried to save. He lost his entire family, and not just his wife and daughter in the past because of it. He lost his brother. He lost his mother. Everything taken from him. Coming to the Norse realm gave him a second chance. Remember, he is still a Spartan in a world that he does not know as his own, that is not his own. This is the world that is his son's. That's what it is. And Kratos can adapt very well to other mythologies. And I think that's what makes Kratos one of the most unique and greatest video game characters. You could take him in any direction, and it will be a spectacular experience. But that is for you guys to decide if you have already played the game, beaten the game, or waiting to see what other people have to say about it. If you have a PS5, I highly recommend you play it. If you're waiting for this to go on PC, for anyone who's a PC gamer, I can't wait for you guys to experience it as well, because I know people don't want to go out their way just to buy a console to play one game. But if I was to rate this game as a God of War fan and as a non-God of War fan, if I was to look at it from either ways, this is a unique experience. To me, this is a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect. It could have been longer, and certain characters needed more time to shine. But this is the definitive God of War game for me. Anyway, this is Emperor John, Kyo3D Gaming. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow my Twitch. See you later.